All right, friends, you know it. This is another amazing episode that's going to cover a cycling race event. Now, somebody recommended this to me. Thank you, Michelle, for putting this in my ear. This episode is about the Transcontinental and the Trans-Pyrenees races across. Well, the Transcontinental is across it's across Europe. Okay, so literally from one end to the other, it's 4,000 kilometers. It takes event participants 2 weeks to a month to finish, and the details are ridiculously crazy and exciting. So you have to listen to this one. And if you're going to participate, oh my gosh, please reach out and let the podcast know, because I would love to hear about it and would love to interview you as a participant. Now, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss another amazing episode, and follow myself and the podcast on Instagram. So that's Secrets from the Saddle Podcast and Sylvie _cyclist. And you have yourself an amazing listen and rock your day. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Secrets from the Saddle, All Things Cycling Podcast with your host, Sylvie Daou. And we have Anne Haslock, who is sitting in Wales, the UK, London. I'm just going to say you're UK. And I'm sitting in here, well, as you guys know, Chelsea, Quebec, Canada. And today we are going to be talking about two of the most epic cycling races that I have come across yet, the Transcontinental and the Trans-Pyrenees. So the Transcontinental, so first, Anne is the director of Lost Dot, which is the organization that started these events. She's going to tell us more about that, and the race director for both events. So both events, so the Transcontinental, she was just telling me, is 4,000 kilometers. Okay. And I was just saying, I don't even think I cycle 4,000 in a season. I can't even imagine doing it in 10 days to a month. But so here's the Transcontinental. It's a totally self-supported race across Europe. Now, I was looking at the pictures, and I think it would just be epic to bike that for the scenery alone. So you go from the cobbles of Flanders to the shores of the Black Sea via the rock tunnels, the bald mountain tops, navigating pristine asphalt and rock-strewn tracks. The Transcontinental is once again going across Europe in its own unique style. So now that's the first one. And then we're going to talk about the Trans-Pyrenees, which is a little shorter. However, I'm sure the elevation makes up in the distance. But as you know, it's in the Pyrenees. So you have lots of elevation. That's 1,500 kilometers. So that's in September, and the Transcontinental is in July. So welcome, Anne. I have so many questions for you. Now, I'm so excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
All right. So I always like to start, before we get into the details of these events, how did you get into cycling, and how did you, because you had a partner in crime, Mike Hall, and I was just reading your bio, and I interviewed Rupert Guinness, who is, I believe, in that same event in Australia, where he had his accident. And I was just like, I'm like, oh my God, I think like that was the same one.
Yeah, the Indian Pacific Wheel Race.
Yeah. And so anyway, so she had her partner in crime pass during that event in a tragic car crash. But so I'm gonna have to ask you like later on how you doing it all on your own. But how did you get into cycling?
Well, I have always cycled, as a form of transport. I've always enjoyed, I've always used my bike for getting to work or going to the shops, and I enjoyed riding my bike, but I never really even thought about sort of sport cycling before I met Mike. I met Mike through some friends. Actually, in 2012, he was part of an inaugural event called the World, I think it was called the World Cycle Race. It was the first year it was held, and it was quite a small number of cyclists racing each other around the entire world.
Oh my God.
They were also going for the world record as well, so the Guinness World Record. So they were going for that as well, the unsupported world record. So Mike was winning that. Mike did win that race, and technically didn't get the Guinness World Record because they changed the kind of criteria midway through, so it was a bit difficult. But
what?
Yeah, people know he sort of holds that record. Anyway, he so some friends of mine, they said to me during 2012, they said, oh, our friend's just finishing this amazing, world cycle race around, and he's finishing in London. He'll be finishing. Do you want to come down and, meet him? And I was like, yeah, great. And then I didn't go for whatever reason. Anyway, next year we did meet, and, obviously got on well and became a couple. And yeah, Mike, after he'd done the World Cycle Race, after he'd been a part of it, he not only did he race it, but because of sort of some stuff that happened while they were sort of putting the race on, while they were developing it and things, he ended up sort of helping to organize it. So while he was racing, he was like, oh, I could do this. I could make an event. And so, yeah, basically he sort of thought about it a lot during 2012 while he was, I mean, you've got a lot of time to
cycling
around the world. And
how long did that take him, by the way?
That's a question. I've got it written down somewhere.
Like 4 months?
No, like something like just over a month. I think it was.
Really?
Oh, I don't know. I'm going to embarrass myself now. I'll have to let you know. I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
So,
wow.
He smashed the record of the previous person because it was often more of a touring record. Mike was one of the first people to kind of do it with a more race bike setup, bike packs, stuff like that. So he was kind of one of the pioneers, really, of bike packing. And yeah, so 2012, he was thinking about doing it. By 2013, the summer of 2013, the first TCR happened. He put it on. So I don't think we sort of knew each other at that point. But by the second event in 2014, we were, together, spending a lot of time together and things. And basically, in order to spend time with my boyfriend, I was like, well, I better kind of get involved in this thing because he worked a full-time job and put on this huge race, which is in effect a full-time job. So I started helping him, and then it just grew from there, really. And then of course when he died, stepped into the shoes and took the reins and took it forward. Yeah.
Oh my God, that must have been a devastating time for you. Like, were you over in Australia at the time? Like,
no, I was in the UK. It was awful. Obviously, it was absolutely awful. But in a way, deciding to put the race on the year he died was a difficult decision. Required a lot of soul searching, and was a difficult decision to decide to do it. But once we had decided to do it, it was actually quite a healing thing to do. Yeah, because a bunch of us came together and worked together, and it was friends, and yeah, was a good way to use our energy, and yeah, it was a healing thing in the end.
Just to do it in his honor, to keep it going. It's what he would wanted, all those things. Oh, I'm getting all I'm too sensitive. So moving forward, like, I can imagine, I would just love for you to share some of the logistics of, okay, so let's, for all of our listeners, talk about how they can get involved, because I imagine not anybody can do this. Like, is there a criteria to get in? When is a registration? How much? And then I'm going to ask you all the other fun things about being a race organizer. I'm a race organizer myself here, something much smaller, a little time trial. It's one and done in like a matter of hours. But yeah, tell us about, like, who can do it, is there criteria, registration, all that?
Yeah, I mean, this year is a little different. Obviously COVID-19's kind of put a spanner in the works for everybody for all sorts of different reasons, and no different for us. So we usually advertise the event in November. So for the following year, so we advertise the kind of race locations, because those change every year. One of the
really? Okay.
It's never a set, it's never a sort of set, start that again.
That location, like set start.
One of the key things about the race is that it isn't a set route race. So riders have to plan and navigate their own route across Europe. We do give them locations that they have to go to, obviously, otherwise somebody would just go
for checkpoints.
So that's our checkpoints, yeah.
Okay.
We have our checkpoints, and then riders can navigate their own route between those checkpoints.
Oh, okay.
And we change the location of those checkpoints every year. So in effect, it's a different race every year.
Right. Okay. So everybody starts together, and they have a set checkpoints, which that makes sense to make sure everybody's still on the course. And then there's a finish. Like it's a different finish every time. So is that always changed too, start and finish?
Mostly we have started in a little town in Belgium called Geraardsbergen a few years running, because it hosts a really famous Spring Classics climb, or it was historically always in the Spring Classics, a cobbled climb that is just really beautiful. And it's a great little town. It's such a friendly, kind of welcoming place that, it's difficult to leave somewhere when it's so nice, so friendly, and you have such a great start. So
yeah, for sure.
We're actually returning there this year, so we'll be starting in Geraardsbergen again. But apart from that, we tend to try and change the locations every year. Sometimes we've come across a real special place, and we're like, we've got to go back there, it was so amazing. So but we try and keep it fresh and interesting, and it's a different race every year. So
wow. Okay, so you start in Belgium, and it's a race across Europe. So where are some of the checkpoints?
So this year they'll be starting in Belgium, and they'll be heading straight across Germany into the Czech Republic. That's a kind of new direction for us. We've often had the riders sort of heading south into France, but now they'll be going sort of due east over into the Czech Republic, to an area called Krupka, if I'm saying it right, I'm not sure.
You're probably better than me.
That's a sort of mountainous location with there isn't like a one big climb, but we'll be sending the riders through a kind of sort of mountainous area with a little bit of off-roading, so that will be interesting for them, and it's a really beautiful area. Then they'll be heading they're almost due south, and they'll be heading into the Italian Alps.
Okay.
So they'll be actually doing a section of the Stelvio. They'll probably have to do a section of the Stelvio, but that's kind of a key element of our race. The actual control point will be at Passo Gavia, which is a fairly well-known climb for cyclists in Italy. And then after that, they've got a long stretch where they head south to Montenegro, which there's a really beautiful national park called the Dermator National Park. And that's our third race location.
Wow.
So it's a long route between Italy and Montenegro. And they can't use a ferry, obviously.
Wouldn't that be nice? Just a second, you're missing a whole section on Strava. Oh, yeah. Where is that?
And then after that, they sort of head north, northeast through Serbia and into Romania. And then
whoa,
real big climbs in Romania to do this. There's two quite famous roads. One's the Transalpina and one's Transvagarasan. So we have been to the Transvagarasan previously. So this year we're going to go for the Transalpina. And then they finish on the Black Sea coast in Bulgaria.
Wow.
So we actually advertised places for that race, TCR number 8, for that, in effect, that race. The routes changed a little bit in 2019, just before a global pandemic, obviously, which put a spanner in the works for us. You know, it's been very unclear whether we could put the race on safely. You know, we were
because you're passing into so many different countries, right? Everybody's got something different going on.
Exactly. Before the sort of COVID passports happened, it was just so unclear about how people were going to get through anywhere. So, you know, regretfully, we postponed it in 2020, and then again, we postponed it again in 2021. So everybody who signed up has been waiting for 2 years.
Right. Oh my gosh. Well, at least they've been doing lots of time to get some extra training in.
Exactly. No excuses now.
So how many people do you take for, let's just talk about the Transcontinental, because it's the longest and the hardest. How many people do you take for that?
We've got about 300 places on the race. We oversubscribe a little bit, so that because we know some people will inevitably drop out. All sorts of things happen over a year that mean you end up not being able to do what you planned. So we oversubscribe. We don't operate a waiting list. We found it's a lot less work for us as organisers to do it with a sort of oversubscription, and then we're not wasting time operating this waiting list. We can actually spend our time making the race better, which is the better use of our time.
So do you have requirements? Because you can't just let anybody do this, because then we have an application system. So what we do is we open applications, and those are for people to let us know what their experience is, you know, what they've done before. In effect, you don't have to have done one of these races before. There's no qualifiers, because, you know, we don't want it to be elitist, but we do need to, you know, trust that people know how to look after themselves out on a multi-day adventure. So yeah, maybe you've never raced before, but you could be very experienced at going out 3-4 days out on the road, and you've not raced like that before. But if you know how to look after yourself, then we trust that you'll be able to, you know, it's just another step, isn't it, to the racing, you know, training and knowing your body, you know, being able to manage, handle and keep yourself safe out on the road. Those are the sort of key elements to being able to, you know, survive an adventure, if you like that one. So what are the key things that you look for in those subscriptions, in those registrations? Because I imagine you would say, not really going to qualify, and this one is okay. So you probably sift through them, and then, and if they make it in, then they're charged on their credit card, and they know that they're in, and this is it. You got to start training. And so what are the key things that you really look for to make you feel good about that person, that they're a good qualifier or a good candidate?
Yeah. So we have various, so we have some sort of ambitions for the race. We really want to make the race as diverse and inclusive as we can make it. So we ask people to let us know about their ethnicity and their gender. We want to know those things about races, because I'm sure you know, racing in cycling in general is quite a masculine, especially cycle racing is quite a masculine sport. We have a lot more men applying than women. So at the moment, if you're a woman and you apply to race, unless you submit a terrible application form,
you
you're
are
probably gonna get a place on the race. If we believe that you know what you're doing and you understand the race, you're in. You know, the same with people who let us know about their ethnicity, you know, and countries that are underrepresented. So we're based in Europe, so we get a lot of, and we're a British company, so we get a lot of British and European applicants, but we don't get less from other parts of the world. So, you know, we're trying to create a race that's globally diverse. So we want that respected. And we have clear rules, obviously, for our race. Race has to have rules. And so what we do in the application form is we ask a load of questions that kind of try to elicit whether you understand what we've told you the race is about. Because it's an unsupported race and we haven't got eyes physically on you 24/7 checking you're not cheating, we want to be trying to find out how much this applicant cares about being honest and being, you know, racing a fair race, you know. And
so you don't have GPS on them?
Yeah, we do have GPS on them. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then that kind of takes.
But there's all sorts of things that you can, you know, potentially get away with. So, you know, what we're trying to do is find out if somebody believes in what we're trying to achieve with this race, which is genuinely find out the fastest person across Europe, not find the person who's willing to do whatever it takes, including cheating, to be the first. We want to find, you know, we want to find the genuine, honest fastest person across Europe. That's what we want to do.
Wow. Okay. So how much does this cost?
So normally it costs £350, British pounds.
Okay.
It was a little higher this year because of COVID, and in order to kind of, what we've done throughout the years in order to try and make the race happen, we've had to kind of redesign the race every year. So in effect, you know, I've been working and I have bills to pay, so we've had to spend some money. So yeah, but you know, most years it's under £400 for the ticket to race, which is not a huge amount.
No,
compared to what it would cost you to actually do the race, you know, with all your travel and food and
right. Even like it's about for a Canadian, it'd be the same as an Ironman race, because there's like $900. Crazy. But
yeah, we're a not-for-profit company, so we were set up when Mike died to preserve Mike's legacy. You know, we're not here to make any profit for anybody. You know, we make enough to pay ourselves an all right, you know, normal wage, and we obviously have sponsorship and stuff, and you know, we have those deals, but really we're here to make a race that we believe in and we care about, and preserve Mike's legacy. Yeah.
So is this a full-time job for you?
Yeah,
we have on both of these.
We have two. I've just got a new colleague. So David's just started with me. So yeah, we both work between full-time and part-time, depending on, and then obviously when the race is on, 24/7.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about the race, because I was asking you how long people take to finish 4,000 kilometers.
So yeah, incredibly, the fastest will take between 9 and 10 days, if you can believe it. No.
No, I can't believe it.
I know.
That is, so that's like really like 24/7, like very little sleep, this
Yeah.
person, and enjoying the scenery. I no stopping for pictures. This person is on a mission. And so what about the longest?
Yeah, the longest, I'd say, like, you know, the people who are towards the back of the race, they might take up to 4 weeks potentially. I'd say most people finish. We usually have a party after 15 days of racing. We have a party at the finish, and
Yeah.
for most people, that's their kind of like, they really want to make it. Not necessarily to party, but it's kind of like the, in effect.
Yeah, I don't want to be out there forever. This is a good 15. So, okay. Now, say those people who are lagging behind like 2-3 weeks, so how do you know? So I guess you must be watching them on GPS and going, okay, they're getting close to the finish. Now we should get out and celebrate them coming in. Because there's, you know what it's like when you're at the back of the race, you show up and everybody's packed up and you're like, wait, where is everybody? Where's the beer? They hand you the beer and you cross the finish line. You're like, oh, this is why I race.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we can't afford to stay in. I mean, if I could afford to stay on, in Burgas and sit by the beach and just have some beers to hand out, I definitely would. But after 15 days after the party, the race, operators, our volunteers, all the team, we have to go home. And then, but often people will be finishing, for a good few days after that, and their friends and family will be out there. Other riders who, just finished the day before, we usually go to the finish line and have a beer for them. So, it's not like there's just nobody. Maybe our team have to go home, but, it's such a friendly, nice community, and people know you don't want to finish and no one to be there, so other riders will do that for each other. They know how lovely it is to have somebody there to sort of share a few stories with over a beer, and people want to do that for each other. So and I don't know if you've seen the Trans Am, that's really the finish of the Trans Am is, at the monument, people are just there with a couple of beers and a little chat.
The beer.
Just go home to sleep.
That's right. So, I can imagine as a cyclist, you don't want to go very far after riding that. Just sit around, let your body recover. So navigation. Now you mentioned that there's checkpoints. So when do they get the route? Is it when they're accepted? You automatically then send the route so they can start planning their strategy as to how they're going to bike from point to point?
What we do is we provide the kind of rough outline of the race, so the actual control points. That's kind of public when we launch the route. So in November, we'll be like, this is TCR number 8, and here are the key locations for the route. So that gives people,
so that's public.
Yeah, that gives people an idea, like, do I want to go to these places? Do I want to do a race that will go to these places? Is for whatever reason, and then if they decide they want to apply, that's when you'll get given the race manual. So during our application system, you pay a small amount and we'll send you the race manual, and that's got a lot of information in it. So that's got all about our rules, our expectations, what you can expect from us, more detail about the locations. And then throughout the year, we'll kind of add the fine detail to that. So so maybe, you know, in November we haven't actually booked the hotel that we're going to feature as our control point, but you know, by April you'll know exactly where that's going to be. So people will be able to, people can kind of create a rough outline of their route very early on, and then, you know, as the sort of year goes on, they'll be sort of working on the finer detail of that, and we'll be able to provide more details. By April they should know everything, so that's when they can really kind of finalize their route and make sure that there's not going to be any surprises for them on the route, because
yeah. So do you as a race organizer go and scout out like the route, and you know, because there might be some place like definitely do not ride here, and here's like, you know, that kind of thing?
We go,
do you have time for that?
We can't do the whole route because people are going to choose different routes, so that would be impossible.
right, yeah.
But we do go to the locations that we're going to set the race at, so the control point locations, we go there. I've got to say, for during global pandemic years, one location we've not been to, but I worked with a local cyclist who gave us loads of advice and kind of you know, basically was our consultant for choosing the right routes in that location. So I feel really confident that we've got a good, safe route. And then, you know, over the years of having put on this race, we've obviously, you know, learnt various tunnels in Europe that we don't want riders to go through, and you know, so we get to sort of build our information, and then so anything that we want to prohibit on the race, riders will know that as well. There's a couple of like, most, like say a really long tunnel without any natural lighting, or even like without any
side
thing,
or a shoulder to ride on,
or shoulders. Yes, there's a few of those that are not like, that are legal for cycling. Most of them wouldn't be legal for cycling, you know, they're just, you know, the country themselves say, you know, this isn't safe to cycle in, you can't cycle there, and there'll be a sign. But if they are legal for cycling but we don't agree that they're safe enough, we will prohibit them. But most of the time, all we say is, you know, you have to abide by the local rules, you know, rules of the road and the laws in that country. You have to know and abide by those, and you know, cycle as you would at any other time. You know, you need to be taking good care of yourself, keeping yourself healthy, alert. You know, you are in a race, and we do know that, but nothing is worth risking your safety for. So if you ever feel that you're not safe, you should be stopping and sleeping or eating or taking a break, or whatever you need to do to make sure you're safe, because not only are you, obviously that's not safe, but you know, if you're not operating at good capacity, you're not going to be able to win a race like that either. So you know.
I don't know if I go out to win, but I be the scenic cyclist, because I was looking at, like I said, I was looking at some of the pictures and I'm like, oh my God, this is just like the most amazing way to see a lot of the countryside. How many countries are you going through? Oh my gosh, yeah.
I think of them all. So we'll be Belgium, Germany, Czech Republic. They'll be back in Germany again. They're not going to France this year. Italy, Slovakia, Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia, Romania. I think it's 10. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I know my girl
will choose different routes and stuff, but yeah, more or less. There might be some Hungary in there.
So, and all these countries are safe?
Yeah.
Right now.
Obviously, Bosnia at the moment, we've got our eye on the political situation in Bosnia at the moment. We are looking at an alternative location if we have to move. one of our controls. So we always have an eye on what's happening. Obviously, we have a lot of rules around where people can cycle in Romania. One of the things about cycling in Romania is they don't really have many like highways, or like motorways is what we call them here, like multi-lane roads. They don't really have many of those. So people drive on single lane or you know, 2 lanes, but effectively single lane, one each way. They drive, you know, like huge lorries and stuff drive very, very fast on those roads. So there are certain roads that really don't feel very safe to be a cyclist. So again, we worked with a local Romanian cyclist who's he used to have a business operating cycle tours in Romania. He offered us some really useful advice. We've also been there a couple of times ourselves now, so we've got some really kind of clear rules for our riders about where they can ride and where they can't ride in Romania. But other than that, we try not to dictate too much to our riders. You know, we want them to do research. They're the experts. They know how they race best. You know, maybe they are a climber and, you know, they really want to kind of do the direct route that's got a lot more elevation because that's their kind of strength.
Oh, so it's not necessarily 4,000 kilometers. Like you can chop off some mileage by
route. You can reduce that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And also
I got it.
Whatever suits you as well. You know, somebody's going to be
a
lot
over the hill or around the mountain, over the mountain. Yeah. Okay. I got it. So, okay.
It makes it really interesting when you're watching like the big.
Oh, can you watch that live and watch the GPS of everybody? Oh my God. That's so cool. When I was telling you, I used to adventure race and they would put GPS on us. And like, when I would watch my friends race, it's just like, it's like, where are they going? You know, you see somebody going off here. And oh, that's great. So that's good to know. So whether you're participating or not, if you're not participating, you can watch live and always go back and check as to where people are. And that's a really cool feature for racing these days. It's I think probably the last 10, 15 years, they've added that feature for events that are multi-day. So you can always come back and can you send messages as well on that platform, or is it just watching like the map?
No, I don't think so. We're actually I don't think you can, but we have a Facebook group, called the Transcontinental Race Facebook group, that we invite not just riders to be part of, but friends and family. So we often find that like people are chatting to each other on there, less the riders, they're busy cycling.
Right, obviously.
But you'll get friends and family kind of like, you know, it's really nice place for them to be during the race because they can really, you know, for some people it's quite a scary experience for their loved one to be out, you know, on such a kind of wild adventure, and it's really nice for them to be able to interact with people who are perhaps a bit more experienced, and you know, they can ask each other questions and stuff. So that's a really kind of nice space to be during the race.
Yeah. So for training, I don't know, do you offer up suggestions? And also, okay, let me just start with that. Training. Do you offer up suggestions? Because I could just go and ask like 3 different questions all at once.
We don't, but what we tend to do is hold like panel discussions with some of our more experienced racers. And again, in our Facebook group, some of our more experienced racers are mentors. So you can sign up to have a mentor and ask them questions. And we also have like a podcast where, you know, we interview riders and things. So that's usually during the race. But, you know, there's we do more and more races, the kind of knowledge base that you can access really kind of increases. And in these days, you know, people like James Hayden or Fiona, you know, winners of the race, Josh Ibbott, they have blogs, they have, you know, ways that you can kind of learn from them. So if you're interested, it doesn't take much searching on the internet and you can find some really good advice from other people.
Right. So what is like the average kilometers per day? Well, God, I guess can't say per day because well, I guess what are the average kilometers somebody would travel in a 24-hour period?
In order to get to the control points, because it's a race, we have a closing time for each control point. So it opens
Right.
when
Oh, you do have a check. So, okay. Just now that you said that. So anybody who arrives, okay, so you have cutoffs.
Yeah. So what we do with the race, we have you can finish the race in two categories. You can finish the race as a finisher, which means you've got to the finish.
Yeah, you finished in time.
No, you've just got to the finish. Or you can finish in time, which means you're in general classification.
Oh, okay.
We have two classifications. You can race as a solo racer, or you can race as a pair. You can race with a partner. So for some people, that's a really nice way to sort of do the race for a first time, because you're not on your own, on the other hand, perhaps it's a bit more difficult because you've got to manage two people's differing kind of behavior during a race and sleep patterns and everything like that. So I wouldn't always say it's easier, but
can you start together and not finish together?
I mean, people do.
Oh, I can imagine.
But you're not finished in your classification. In that case, you'd be a finisher. Right. We have a control point cutoff time, so you have to ride roughly around 240 kilometers a day to get to our control point cutoff time, and that's the time where we're not there to we have brevet cards, so we're not there to kind of put a stamp in your brevet card and give you a time. If you arrive after that time, you can still make it to the finish and you'll still be a finisher, but you're not in general classification at that time.
Okay.
But it's obviously still a very impressive thing to finish the Transcontinental.
Oh, for sure.
It's not we're going like, oh, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Anybody who starts, it's incredibly impressive. So yeah, there's nobody's kind of dismissing anything. It's
oh no, I can imagine, like, whether you're in contention, I'm not going to say DNF'd, but not yeah, like you said, you're not in qualification, you are just like you finished.
And even if you've had to scratch, on a 4,000 kilometer race, if something's happened and you've had to quit your race for whatever, you've got an injury or a mechanical that you just can't afford or can't manage to fix in time.
Right.
Happen, we always say to those people, if you want to come to the finish, so the party, everybody's welcome. Please come. You can travel. You can get a bus or
still got to make it there.
You can still come to the finish. You can even, get a bus some other way and ride some other way. Whatever it is. Lots of people scratch on the race. That that's just the nature of it. But doesn't mean anything apart from like it just wasn't your time.
Well, you can't control things that you can't control, like especially if you get a serious mechanical in the middle of nowhere. You just got to make it to the next town and see if you can get some help, and then time flies and you just can't make it up. Yeah, I can see that. Or where you have an accident or just like a little crash or something. But so now with the Pyrenees, like I think I've asked all the questions that I need to know about that were like at the top. So basically is it the same process for the Pyrenees because it's much shorter? You have a qualification, or are there more people that come out for that one?
Well, for the Transcontinental, because it's more well known and such a long way, we're always really heavily oversubscribed for that race.
Okay.
For that race, we might get kind of anything between 600 and 800 people applying for that race.
Wow.
Whereas we only have 300 places to offer. So what we usually do is you know, we go through all the applications and read everything, and then everybody who's eligible, we put into a ballot, and then it's luck of the draw if you get a place or not. For the Trans-Pyrenees, we're not in that position most years at the moment, so we have around 200 people racing, so there's opportunities to race. We're going to be able to offer we're offering some of those at the moment actually, so for anyone interested, currently this week you can apply for that race. Get some
extra people in there. Yeah, I know, because it's like mostly climbing. Not everybody's all like,
not everyone's cup of tea
into the climbing.
Yeah, no, this is definitely one for people who love the mountains and love climbing, because it's just that. It's just up and down, and then up and down and up and down, and then a lot more. So it's quite.
I think I go for distance myself.
It's quite intense. I think some people kind of entered it, you know, 2019 was our inaugural year for that race. So this will be our second second time doing that race. Again, we change the race locations. It's a very similar setup, but it's in a smaller area of the world, obviously. As it's in the Pyrenees, it's France, Spain, and Andorra, which is a principality in the middle. We change the control points each year, so they'll go to somewhere a bit different. So we try and kind of keep it as interesting as we can. But obviously, you know, it's a much smaller locality, so lots of it's very similar. But
I guess you don't have as much to play with. Like, you know, there's only a certain amount of routes to. You can go forward and backwards, and this side from that side and that side.
So what we do is we start on the Bay of Biscay, and then they cycle out to the opposite coast, and then they cycle back again. So we start and finish in the same place.
Oh, okay, so that makes it a bit better for logistics.
Yeah, yes, that makes it easier for us. And yeah, obviously twice as hard because you've got to do it all twice.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess, yeah, so I was thinking it was like a big, well, I guess it's a big loop.
Yeah, so this year we're mostly spending on the way out, just mostly spending a time in the south, in Spain, and then on the way back. We take in quite a lot of the kind of more famous French climbs, like the Tourmalet, and you know,
wow,
that are quite well known.
So do you have the same cutoffs for this one?
Yeah, it's set up very similar. Yeah.
So you have as much as time as you need to finish it, but so the fastest ones do this in how many? Don't tell me 3 days. Like 3 days.
It's about 4 days. 4 days. Yeah, it's about 4 days.
Those are the real lovers of hills. Yeah, there.
Thomas, our winner from 2019, he actually came off. I'm not sure what caused. It's a long time ago now, so I can't remember quite what caused it. But he actually fell off his bike and finished the race. We think possibly with a hairline fracture in his shoulder. He finished, and he was clearly in a lot of pain, and you know, it's kind of hunched over. And yeah, I think he told us, you know, when he got home, he was like, oh yeah, I actually broke my shoulder.
That's one of those when you're biking like this, you fall over, so you're so tired.
Yeah.
I've had that happen, but
I mean, there's different things. So the Pyrenees, we find like there's a lot more interaction with like wildlife or not just farm animals as well. So like you get a lot of like up in the mountains, there's not a lot of kind of fences to hold in the sheep and the cows, so they'll just wander across the road, or horses even just kind of wander across the road. And so if you're not really looking, people have you know come into contact with the wildlife. There's wild boar and
Oh,
yeah, all sorts of wildlife as well. So yeah, there's different things to be mindful of. There's less traffic, I think, in the Pyrenees than you probably come across when you're racing on the Transcontinental. You're much more likely to be on quiet roads without traffic. But the flip side is you're more likely to come into contact with some animals.
I would never have thought that, but I suppose if you're going downhill, you might want to go down in a very controlled manner. You never know who's going to step out on the side of the road.
Yeah, about you.
Dogs. Wow. Oh my gosh. So Anna, this is like, it's amazing. I love this. And if things weren't the way they were right now, I'd almost consider because calling up my friend Michelle and say, hey, you want to do this not together? Because I think you're right. Like as a team is kind of not, but you can ride alongside each other and support each other without being a team. And I think that's probably the best way to go at it. And then if somebody has an idea, well, I want to stay here longer, then you're like, okay, well, I'll see you at the finish line or somewhere down the road or whatever. But
well, you have to be careful with that because we do have rules about riding solo. But yeah, you can, you know.
What do you mean?
Well, so when you're racing the Transcontinental, if you're racing solo, you have to prove with your tracker that you're in effect racing on your own. So if you spend too much time with another rider, we'd have some
really?
Yeah.
Oh. Really?
Yeah, because it's an unsupported solo, well, unless you're in a pair. If you're in a, that's why we have the pairs category, because that's what you're doing.
Right.
But otherwise, we're quite strict about you being unsupported. Whereas, and so there's also elements like, I don't know if you're aware, like the Trans Am have a kind of quite an open relation, or sort of an open, they're quite open to trail angels and things like that. Whereas on the Transcontinental, we're a lot more like strict about you being unsupported and not really accepting support. If you're racing, if you want to be in general classification, you want to take the race really seriously, we're actually quite strict about what you can take from other people and in what manner and things like that.
Oh, really? Like you can't stay over at somebody's house, say. If somebody offered you to,
yeah, well, if they're not your friend. So for example, if you want to finish the race and you know there's a trail angel and they offer you to stay for the night at their home, if you're just interested in finishing, we will be like, okay, well, as long as you don't know that person, they're not your friend and you haven't arranged this in advance, that's okay. However, if you're serious about racing and you want to be in GC, it's in your interests not to have us be suspicious of that. So it's in your interests to only really use like hotels or a bivvy.
Okay. So you can use hotels and most of them, I was going to ask, travel with a tent and like a full
bivvy,
pack.
Usually, yeah.
Okay, so you can't like travel in a pack? Like if you kind of end up coming on up to someone and spending time with them and then that's discouraged?
Is, if you want to spend like 45 minutes to an hour riding together and chatting, fine. And obviously if you're riding a similar route and at a similar speed, the chances are you might meet each other a couple of times on the race. That's okay, but the chances are of you riding exactly the same pace is pretty slim. So there's a point where you're not just riding together for 45 minutes and chatting. There's a point where you've decided to sort of in effect ride together and support each other. And so that's where we're trying to draw the line, in that, we don't want you to be unfriendly and not to be able to say hello to each other or share a meal or whatever. But, if, say, for example, over 2 days, always started together, you've always stopped for lunch together, your trackers
Right.
are in the same place.
Because I can see you. Everybody. It's like, oh, look at these guys. They found it. And okay, yeah, got it.
And if you're not interested in GC and you meet maybe potential love of your life and you're like, well, I don't care about this anymore, I love this person, I want to finish the race with them, great, you know, we're not stopping you. All we do is pull you out of GC, and you know, you would finish and then hopefully go off and marry and have happy ever after. You know, we're certainly not trying to dictate decisions about people's lives, but within the race we have some rules, and we're quite clear about how you race within the rules. But beyond, if you're people sometimes ask us about this in terms of like offering support to another rider. If you see maybe you come across another rider and they've broken, a part of their bike is broken, example on the side of the road. Now, to stay in GC and to be seriously racing, they can't borrow any of your tools and you can't help them fix their bike. If you and they want to stay together both of you want to stay in the race, you can't help each other. You can't accept help and you can't offer help. However, what we do say, because we're not affecting your life, we're just executing the race, what we do say is, that person's on the side of the road, they've clearly got a problem. Say, you know, are you okay? Would you like some help? And they could go, yes, please, I'd really like some help. And then you'd say, okay, well, I can help you, but that means you'd have to, you know,
provide your own stuff, your own gear.
No, it means that you would have to say you're not racing anymore, in effect.
Really? Oh, that like the good Samaritan in me just kind of like
racing unsupported, because the idea is when you get to the finish, the person who's raced a truly unsupported race, who's not accepted any help off anybody, they've done it all by themselves, there needs to be a way to differentiate that person to somebody who couldn't do that for whatever reason. They just couldn't do it and they needed help. So you can't say that you raced the same race as that person because you accepted help. So that's the differentiator. So we're not saying you see somebody at the side of the road and you just go, oh, well, I'm not going to even stop because, you know, because that's obviously a terrible thing to do.
I'm in a race.
We'd like you to obviously be a human being, go up to that person and say, are you okay? And then it's up to them, you know, have the discussion. Do you want my help? Are you willing to accept that means you're not going to finish this race as a, you know, in GC?
Oh, okay. The person who needs help will have to make the decision that they are no longer in a GC race, but you, the helper, can still stay as a true. Okay. Got it. Everybody got that? Everybody got that.
Especially if somebody's you know, really badly needs help and you really need to be there, you know, that will affect your race time. So you can, if you have evidence of that and you can, you know, report that to us, then, you know, we'd be able to affect the race times afterwards. So, you know, it's not, you know, I mean, I think that if anybody saw somebody in serious trouble, any idea that their race would go out their mind, and you just think about that person. But obviously if you're then able to continue racing, we would, you know, you would be able to contact us and we could be able to sort of talk about that and how we manage that within the race.
Right. So so everybody still gets to use their and I don't know, ambulance like that I mean, like, can help somebody's who's had like something serious happen.
I mean, we don't have like a helicopter or anything.
Yeah, I know, but if it's, you know, if somebody's on the side of the road and they had an accident.
Yeah, then they'd have to phone the emergency services. I mean, those are the emergency services would have to be the ones that help them. We don't have helicopters and doctors and things like that because it's £400 to enter the race, not 4,000.
Yeah, I know.
But, you know, we can obviously support in whatever way we can. And the main thing that I was sort of trying to talk about then was, you know, within the race. So, you know, if you've ended up stopping to help somebody, to phone the emergency services, to make sure that they get off in a, you know, you wait with them until they've taken off to hospital and things. You have obviously phoned us to let us know so that we can get in touch with their next of kin. Then, you know, you might say to us, right, I've been here for 3 hours. Can you record that for me?
Okay.
And
Right.
then we
I got it.
Their race time when they finish.
Wow.
So
all right.
definitely don't want people to feel like that they can't be a human being to enter this race.
But I got it. I understand those rules. That's good. And it's good to differentiate like those for everyone. So, all right, to our listeners, who is going to go for this event and get on to the Transcontinental, just a second, the website. I'm just looking for it. Yeah, transcontinental.cc.
That's it.
That is where you can go and check out more details, register, talk with your partner, say you want to do something epic this summer. And
well, chances are you may not be able to do it this summer, but certainly.
Oh, that's right. Everything's almost full.
Think about it for next summer. And then
you can do the hilly one.
If you want to do the hilly one, yeah, then make
and that's in
now.
Yeah, that's in September. So you got more time to go and train on some of the massive hills, or go and find some to do some training on. So with that, Anna, this is so amazing. So make sure you follow. We got Instagram, the Transcontinental, and Trans Pyrenees. So make sure you go and follow those, check them out. Follow Anna. Are you on Instagram as well, personally? Or you just?
Yeah, I'm Ride Eat Make is my
Ride Eat Make. Okay, I don't think I'm following you. Hold on, I'm just gonna write that down.
We I called it that when we first started working together, Mike and I. So we were kind of thinking about whether we'd do some holidays and things. And I'm an artist, so I was going to offer some art courses and things, but running 2 massive bike races ended up taking all the time.
Yeah. Wow. Maybe we should have you back and to talk about your other passions besides this race that affects cycling. So you got Anna's. Mine is Sylvie _cyclist, and make sure you follow the podcast, Secrets from the Saddle podcast, as well as make sure you share this with someone, and also give us a good review and 5 stars. Thank you so much, Anna. This has been really informational, and you know, just super piques my interest for next year. I'll put that on my calendar for next November to start scouting out, because that's usually when us, you know, who are organizers or like to organize our year. November's the time to start looking at all these like really cool, interesting events for the following year, and to start, you know, putting together some cool destination travels with the family. Yeah, you can come to Europe and see me race, and well, maybe not. Maybe I'll have to travel.
You decide.
Yeah, you'll see me before the race, not after, because I'll be dysfunctional. With that, thank you so much, everyone, and thank you again, Anna. This has been amazing. I wish everybody have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.